Let's get straight into it. Tonight's panel joining me, former Victorian Liberal Party President Michael Kroger and former Labor Senator Graham Richardson. Richo, first to you, how hard is it going to be for Anthony Albanese, the PM, to wrangle that huge caucus and stomp on any hubris that might emerge?
Probably not as hard as you think, because he's earned that huge majority, and that gives him enormous respect. So I think, the caucus will want to try and do the right thing, want to try and be as unified as possible.
Michael, what did you make of the opposition's first up effort today? I mean, I was very surprised at where they took question time, concentrating on superannuation. There's so much more low-hanging fruit that they could have used, I think, more effectively.
Yeah, I'm not so sure about that, Steve. Look, Australia has a very serious financial problem, which is that gross federal government debt is going to increase from about 900 billion when Albanese came to office, and by the time the next election will be 1.2 trillion. So debt will increase in this country $300 billion over the life of these two parliaments. What does that mean? Well, he can't cut expenditure, we know that. He can't deregulate, we know that. So he's going to have to increase taxes. So Susan Lee concentrating on taxes, I thought, was the appropriate thing to do, because you can't sustain these massive increases in government debt that we're seeing. So the next 3 years is going to be an argument about government spending and debt and the financial disaster that this mob are going to leave us with. I mean, cheering each other on that they cut student debt today, great. Well, that cost $16 billion. Who's paying for that?
Well, we are, of course. Richo, you've been there. I mean, what happens when you get elected as a new government, and one with a thumping majority like Albanese's got? You wheel out any bad news that you might be intending to deliver over the next 3 years as soon as you can, don't you? And so Michael's argument that we're going to get tax increases, do you agree that's probably the road we're going to go down?
I hope it's not, but I can't rule it out. Tax increases sometimes are very hard for governments to resist. I can imagine that it's possible in this environment for that to occur.
Michael, the country's third largest superannuation fund, talking about super, Host Plus, they're not happy with Labor, saying there's not been adequate consultation for this super tax plan. Host Plus says that the unrealised gains tax needs to be reconsidered. I've got a weird theory on this. Do you think that it is possible that someone got into the ear of someone on the Host Plus board and said, would you get this back on the agenda and argue about it and give us some cover, and we might actually start thinking about whether we drop this unrealised profits part of the tax?
That might have happened, but they don't show any inclination to drop it, Steve. They took that policy to the election. It was out there for everybody to see. And because Jim Chalmers convinced people that it didn't really affect anybody in this country apart from, a few very wealthy people, they proceeded with it. No one noticed, and Labor got a hefty swing to them. So it wasn't unpopular in the electorate. What will be unpopular is when they expand unrealised capital gains taxes, or get rid of the capital gains tax discount, etc., or bring in inheritance taxes, or bring in, with the compliance of the states, an increase in the GST. I mean, tax is going to have to increase in this country. We're going to be an economic basket case if they don't increase taxes. That's the only way. That's the only Labor way. They've done it in Victoria with disastrous consequences. But if you can't cut spending and you can't deregulate to increase growth, GDP growth, you're only left with one option. The other option is you just sit there like a vegetable and see debt in this country go to unpalatable levels, as we're seeing in America. I mean, debt in America now, because of these recent changes, is going from 36 to 39 trillion. Keir Starmer just tried to cut debt in government expenditure, therefore debt in Britain, and got a whack over the head. So Labor governments can't cut debt. Conservative governments, if you call Trump a conservative, are happy to increase debt. This is a worldwide Western society problem that no one seems to be able to address. But sooner or later, as we say, the economic reality stick will hit these governments with disastrous consequences.
Graham, I mentioned NDIS and the figure of 51 billion. We're now spending more on the disability insurance scheme than we are on defence. It's very difficult to rein that in because you are immediately targeted as someone who doesn't care about the disabled. But that's not sustainable, is it? 51 billion.
I wouldn't have thought so. Something will have to be done about that. It's a matter of what goes against Labor's grain, we're not champions at cutting debt. I'd have to concede that, but we're at a time when we need to.
That's a polite way to put it.